forget to like, subscribe, comment, and click the notification button. Hi everyone! I am Dr. Larissa Gata, a sociologist, forester, and educator. In this video, I would like to share with you the class presentation of SFFG 152, Sociology of Natural Resources, Section U. This is a class presentation, a student activity being conducted in SFFG 152 every semester. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the activity responses have been modified to suit the virtual learning setup. Activity responses, or more popularly known as AR, refer to individual and group output-based tasks, which I have personally designed for each topic included in the course content of SFFG 152. In this video, the students present their group outputs for AR 5 to 8 for the first time in the online platform. If you have any inquiries and comments, kindly use the comment section and the students will be more than willing to respond to them to the best of their abilities.
Good evening, ma'am, and to my fellow students. Good day, viewers. Please like, share, and comment on this video and use the hashtag SFFG152 lang saka lang. Again, please like, share, and comment on this video and use the hashtag SFFG lang saka lang. Thank you. I am Edmar Angeles and I will be your host for today. I hope everyone is safe and healthy at the comfort of their homes. We had a challenging semester, but every effort will surely pay off once we finish our classes. Tonight, we will be sharing our activity responses as a class. I am encouraging everyone to be participative and focused. Before we officially start the presentations, let us glorify God and sing the national anthem. Please put yourselves in the presence of our Lord.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Are you now ready for our presentation? But wait, there's more. I would like to call on our class president, Mr. Eljan Dulay, to give the opening remarks. Let's give him a big hand.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. I know that we are all busy and maybe some of us are still doing some requirements. So thank you for giving your precious time to this activity. I would also like to thank those who made this activity possible, to our professor, Dr. Gata, to her SA, Ms. Tandam, and to my fellow SFFG 152 Section U classmates. Today, we will see the fruit of our hard work for the past weeks or days. Depende na lang kung kailan talaga tayo nagsimula. Pero kidding aside, I hope that everyone will be all ears and eyes in the presentations prepared by the different groups. So without further ado, may I call on our MC to start the program proper. Thank you.
For the activity responses, we will start with activity response number 5 on stakeholder analysis. The first group will present an analysis of small-scale mining in Mount Diwata, Agusan del Sur. The group is composed of Chua, Dungan, Mariano, Tandang, and Villa.
Sige. Good day, everyone. We would like to present our findings regarding the stakeholders analysis on the small-scale mining in Mount Diwata, Agusan del Sur, Philippines. To give you background, Mount Diwata is located in Agusan del Sur, which is also delegated as an important biodiversity area in the Philippines. It holds rich gold, ore, and mineral deposits that attracted illegal settlers in building small-scale mining establishments and settlements in the area, which led to rapid decline in forest cover, mercury contamination in the Nagco and Agusan River due to the mercury being used in mining activities, and the occurrence of natural hazards such as landslides and soil erosion. Thus, the stakeholder analysis is vital in determining which stakeholders are influential towards the proliferation or mitigation of these said activities. Before that, let us define some terms. Stakeholder is defined as a group of people involved in decision-making and planning processes regarding a certain problem, a certain established policy or program. To analyze that, stakeholder analysis refers to the systematic and qualitative analysis of determining which key players, in our case stakeholders, are necessary or not in a certain policy or program, but in our case, we will focus on a certain problem. And from the case of Mount Dewata, small-scale mining refers to the usage of simple tools and equipment for mineral extraction which can be found in rural areas. So, the methods of this study include the intensive research on the topic itself, on what stakeholders are included in the said problem. Upon identification of the stakeholders, the impacts, its influences, its power, and its roles in natural resources management are identified and collected in terms of studies published, news articles, and brainstorming between group mates. These impacts, influences, power, and roles in natural resources management constitutes our stakeholders analysis. Findings of our study revealed 31 collected stakeholders, of which 32.26% are involved in environment conservation and protection activities, 25.81% on livelihood and income generation, 19.35% on peace and order and legal affairs, 16.13% on decision-making and planning, and 3.23% both on youth and women empowerment and research and development. Now, let us delve into the top 10 stakeholders that influences the role of natural resources management and the case in Mount Dewata. Starting from the top 10, the financiers. Financiers mostly compose of local government units and non-government organizations, government agencies that provide financial support to activities that are related to natural resources management. They gain most profit and from illegal activities in mining, especially if the said agency is known to be involved in many illegal agreements. They also coordinate with public officials to prevent controls and taxes. However, this is influenced by political agenda, and their impacts, either positive or negatively, affect the local communities residing near the mining industry, especially if they are illegally doing their job. They may destroy the natural resources if not managed well.
Board of Directors serve as the head, acting on different organizations, business, or shareholders. Board of Directors makes major decisions for the organizations like compensation for executives, making acquisitions, stock option policies, dividend policies, selling the company, hiring and firing senior executives. Additionally, Board of Directors also ensures that the company or organization will always have its required resources to functions that will help the organization set and do its goals.
Private company owners provide employment and job opportunities to the communities and provide financial and technical assistance in resource management activities and projects that benefited both environment conditions and the company itself. They can influence decision making and control activities involved, resulting in sustainable mining practices and degrading the resources. Local, local politicians coordinate with the LGUs to monitor mining activities to improve public services to the community and the mining site. They have the power to manage the resources and promote sustainable mining operations and activities. Their power can influence the perspective and decisions of the parties involved, which can result in positive or negative impacts. There are instances that the power leads to committing corruption used for electoral campaigns, which permitted uncontrolled illegal activities.
Now, as for the NGO or non-government organizations, they improve the rule of as a condition for community-based forest conservation. It improves the rule of law, control illegal mining activities with exceptional success. They will have the backing of those who want to see the system reform, and they can reach out to the government and the voice in expressing the needs of the community. As for the mining operators, they provide employment and livelihood within the community. However, they need to be managed properly, or else they won't be able to guarantee the safety of the mine operations.
Trade organizations maintain the connection of the industry to the market that involves public affairs. They ensure the viability of the industry through schemes and management of resources. However, there are lapses in their actions wherein it leads to the uncontrollable use of the resources traded to the market, and some are involved in illegal mining, which can be a threat to our natural resources. Businessmen utilize the resources for profit, and they also provide livelihood opportunities to the local community. Their activities influence the forest. Either it will sustain the available resources or it will cause destruction to the environment. Exploitative and unsustainable practices lead to biodiversity loss, which will also affect the communities dependent on it.
Next is Indigenous People. Their role is conservation and protection of forest lands and resources. Their positive impacts and negative impacts are to ensure the proper management of resources using traditional practices that ensure the protection of their land and resources. Its negative impacts having opposing opinions and point of view in decision making. Their influence is having their own knowledge about preservation of natural resources. Its power can be a huge part in decision making. Next is resource users. Its role is they are the one who consumes our natural resources, which can be used as cultural and economic purpose. For the positive and negative impacts, they provide additional workforce and contribution to the economy. Its negative impacts is some users do not utilize the resources sustainably. Its influence are they are the one who benefits from the resources, and its power is they have their own decision power on how the resources can be utilized.
To conclude, the top 10 recorded stakeholders heavily influences the use and management of natural resources in either positive or negative ways in terms of economic status, sustainable management of their resources, and activities that can either lead to degradation or conservation purposes. And conducting the stakeholders analysis gives us a deeper perspective as to what and what not to include in a policy or program formulation, or looking into a problem and and identifying stakeholders that heavily influences it or not. Here are some of the reference materials that we have used in order to conduct this study. Thank you.
Thank you for your great video presentation, Group 1. Let's give them a big hand. Okay, can someone share some realization about the Group 1's presentation? Feel free to raise your hands. You viewers can comment your realizations too. Okay, let's call on Mr. Basquinias.
So siguro my first realization, or my realization lang pala in general, is that there were a lot of stakeholders that were mentioned in the study case of Group 1 that were also mentioned in our study case where we conducted stakeholder analysis. And coincidentally, both involves illegal activities. And it seems like that there is sort of a trend, siguro, in stakeholders when it comes to illegal activities involving exploitation of natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basquinias. That's a great realization. Let's give him a big hand. We will now move on to the Group 2's presentation. They conducted stakeholder analysis on the deforestation of Sierra Madre Natural Park. The members of the group are Angeles, Balatayo, Baldosano, Dulay, and Montoya.
Good evening, everyone. Our report is entitled as The Drivers to Deforestation, the case of Sierra Madre Natural Park. In this report, we are able to identify local stakeholders and user groups systematically, assess local perceptions of the distribution of power among groups, and gain a qualitative overview of the groups and trends in the area.
For the abstract of the article, illegal logging is a threat to biodiversity and rural livelihoods in the Northern Sierra Madre Natural Park, the largest protected area in the Philippines. Every year, between 20,000 to 35,000 cubic meters of wood is extracted from the park. The Forestry Service and municipal governments tolerate illegal logging in the protected area, and government officials argue that banning an important livelihood activity of households along the forest frontier will aggravate rural poverty.
A stakeholder is an individual, group, or institution that has an interest in a particular forest resource. According to FAO, there are groups or individuals that are affected by the outcome of a conflict, as well as those who influence the outcome.
So for the types of stakeholders, there are two stakeholders. One is the primary stakeholders, and the second one is the secondary stakeholders. Primary stakeholders are those most affected by and are dependent on the resources, while secondary stakeholders are those who are more indirectly or less affected or dependent on the resources.
The next part is rationale for stakeholder analysis. First is identify who needs to participate, primary or secondary. Second, assess how stakeholders be affected or might affect. Third, identify the multiple interests and objectives of stakeholders. Fourth, understand the actual resources, influence, authority, or power that stakeholders can have on particular activities. Fifth, assess the most appropriate means for them to participate. Sixth, assess the capacity of stakeholders to participate in the planning process. And lastly, begin to understand potential conflicts that may arise.
So who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders include, first is the government, or the different levels, different agencies, different sectors. Sometimes defining a government is not specific enough. So we need to know what sections or parts of the government will oversight the actions identified in the land use plan. Second is the academics, or the universities, scientists, or NGO leaders that can contribute to the understanding of the best available science. Lastly is the third, the beneficiaries. Anyone who is the beneficiary of goods and services derived from the implementation of the plan. Think big and include anybody that could receive or lose something from the process.
A stakeholder analysis allows us to map out and establish the appropriate level of communication with the stakeholders relative to their influence and interest. Performing a stakeholder analysis involves three steps. Step 1, identify stakeholders. Step 2, investigate the characteristics of each stakeholder. And lastly, step 3, identify power and influence of stakeholders.
There are 32 stakeholders identified, of which mostly are from the government, private, and community sector. The stakeholders were categorized into groups according to their interests, roles, and power. Listed in the table are the 8 types of stakeholders. The power and interest matrix show that private or commercial sectors and the government have positive interest in illegal logging. Private sectors are driven by their business gains, while the government are mandated to manage the forest resource and enforce the law. Consumers have negative interest as illegal logging would negatively influence their livelihood and income sources. By cross-matching power and interest, we have determined that government and commercial sectors have the utmost control in addressing the issue. The government, both national and local, have key roles in resource management, legislation, enforcement, and policy formulation. They are aided by security agencies like AFP and forest guards to impose charges on violators. Consumers and users are heavily dependent on natural resources for their livelihood and in maintaining food security. The private sectors are also dependent on these resources as sources of raw materials. Non-governmental organizations, media, and donors can also aid in environmental awareness and lobbying of environment protection. Impacts of illegal logging can either be beneficial, disadvantageous, or both. Loss or negative impacts to livelihood may result in poverty and starvation. Reports on illegal logging may also question the leadership, credibility, effectiveness of responsible government staff and agencies. While the private sectors have vested interests and most beneficial gains, they may also be prosecuted for violation of law. Both the national and local governments should be stricter in law enforcement and penalty imposition to mitigate resource and community impacts. There should be structure reformation, credibility assessment, and better transparency to prevent lapses in law enforcement. Consumers may create cooperatives to provide temporary assistance. Overall, impact management means addressing the core issue. Private and business sectors should not be allowed in the first place to engage in illegal logging. Adequate monitoring and improved security are warranted. We also rank the stakeholder groups based on the perceived change in interest and power brought by illegal logging. The results show that commercial and government top the rankings based on interest and knowledge of the issue. Similar rankings can be observed in identifying who has more power in addressing the issue. Lastly, the stakeholder groups were ranked according to the computed value for dimension: proximity, pre-existing rights, dependency, poverty, indigenous knowledge, culture and resources link, and power deficit. The consumers stopped as primary users of the forest resource. It is followed by private or commercial sectors, and then by both national and local government. Dismantling the groups into specific stakeholders, IP rank number 1, followed by farmers and other direct users of the resources. Based on this stakeholder analysis, stakeholder dialogue is warranted to address the concerns of the primary users of the land, the farmers, IPs, and upland villagers, among others. Forests are protected by law, and thus illegal logging should be banned. Incidences of illegal logging suggest that there is poor law enforcement, inadequate monitoring, and lenient protocols. Multi-sectoral stakeholder involvement is a prerequisite in a sustainable forest protection and management. Thank you.
So now, Let's go on the next activity response. The examining media portrayal of the environment and natural resources. Let's start with the group 1. Let's give them a big hand.
Good day, everyone. Today, we will be presenting to you the different stereotypes found in the five media.
For the poster, Meet the Plastics by Save Philippines. The stereotype portrayed in this ad was, all of us will be responsible if we keep using plastics and throwing them into the seas.
So giving our natural resources-based industries a deeper look is a newspaper article where, according to the author, natural resources should be utilized to meet the needs of present and future generations through sustainable development and provide livelihoods and job opportunities. The stereotype portrayed in the article is that the indigenous and local communities benefited more in positive impacts from the mining industries.
Involving to give the Philippine government the heavy equipment and maybe some funds and also other.
While China, a radio program collaborated by the Philippines and China, sows a seed of subservience through continued friendship ties while stealing natural resources in the country.
So for the movie media, we chose the reminiscences of the Green Revolution. This short film focuses on a group of friends involved in environmental activism. The stereotype portrayed in the film is that the youth are always woke and aware of injustices occurring in their environment.
The TV commercial we chose is the Nescafe Babangon Tayo commercial, in which the main objective is to promote our local Filipino farmers. The stereotype portrayed in the media is that the coffee growers were just mostly composed of men, that women were just in charge of weaving baskets.
It can be eliminated from the presentation that hidden stereotypical meanings can be found in common media types surrounding our society, which may affect the perspectives of different people regarding the environment.
Okay, thank you Group 1. So nakita natin sa presentation ng Group 1 kung paano pinortray ang natural resources gamit ang media. So sabi nga dun sa commercial na babangon tayo. So after this pandemic, babangon tayo. So now let's proceed to the presentation of Group 2.
This poster did not focus so much in stereotypes, but it shows a lot of symbolism. The crosshair directed to the tiger shows the point of view from the hunter. It shows that we, in the end, also contribute to animal extinction. And the mouse near the stop button shows that we can also help, even if we are still looking at the computer.
Urban areas continue to experience significant environmental changes due to climate change. The broadcaster attributed the increase in temperature to the migration of informal settlers residing in the area. Where climate change is mostly brought about by anthropogenic global warming, informal settlers only have a small share in the problem. Education on climate change should be promoted, and government should also implement policies that would manage the influx of informal settlers.
So for the newspaper article, the stereotype portrayed is that government agencies are nothing without the private sector, or that they are dependent on the private sector despite having the resources. And the content that challenged this stereotype is that in the article, the agreement of partnership was mentioned, where the DNR will provide the technical expertise, while the SMC provides the manpower for the project. So in a sense, the DNR and SMC are complementary of each other, since they can give something that the other lacks.
Dito at doon shows how the Filipinos experienced the quarantine. Throughout their love story, we can notice how the pandemic made the people interested in plants as they started to make their own gardens to take care of. I can only wish that this trend will stay with us even long after the pandemic. That we should always take care not only for ourselves but also.
The Palmolive Naturals commercial uses nature to convey a message. Hair is being compared to a tree with branches that are breaking off in the form of split ends and breakage, and a fissured bark that represents dryness. The media portrays that women's hair will still look healthy even when it suffers from split ends, breakage, and dryness. And the stereotype that was challenged by it is that they casted a young woman with wavy brown hair instead of the usual long, straight, silky, and shiny black hair.
Media can be utilized as a tool to promote awareness regarding various environmental issues in a much faster way and to a large mass within a very short span of time. The role of media in the shedding light on our environmental is important, but the media are not green. Far from it. We must weigh the cost of their environmental impact alongside their contribution to our culture and democracy.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Group 2. Nakikita naman natin siguro kung ano talaga yung epekto ng media sa ating environment at sa kung paano tayo mag-react. Again, to all our viewers, if you want to share something, you can comment on the video. You can also share and like by using the hashtag SFFG152 lang saka lang. Again, hashtag SFFG152 lang saka lang. Okay, so classmates, nakita nyo ba yung buhok ni Miss Balatayo sa commercial ng Palmolive? So yun. Kidding aside, can I call someone na maaring mag-share about the realization on the media portrayal of the natural environmental resources? You can raise your hands. Okay, so can I call on Mr. Dungan? Can you share some realization?
I remembered the movie Da Vinci Code where I forgot the actor, but he said that the picture says 1,000 words, but which words? And it made me remember of this AR because there are lots of meanings to be interpreted from a certain media, but we need to look deeper. We need to delve into what we are need to be deciphered to.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dungan. Talking about meanings, we will go to our next activity response, which is population dynamics and environment. In this activity response, we will learn how population are affected by the available resources in a particular country. Let's start with the group 1.
Good day, everyone. Today, we would like to present the population dynamics and resource use of the 5 countries that we chose for Activity Response 7.
The first country that our group have chosen is Israel with a pyramid population shape. Israel is among the most densely populated countries in the developed world with a population density of 400 per kilometer squared. The increase in population is associated with many environmental problems like increased solid waste production, decline in water quality and quantity, and loss of biodiversity.
Another country is Russia, with a population growth of negative 0.2% affected by the high access to reproductive methods and continued migration to other countries, which proliferated the infrastructure development that caused the pollution of water bodies.
In Nigeria, the population structure is in a pyramid shape. Increasing populations in poor communities combined with lack of waste management guidelines proliferate soil and water pollution. Also, the increasing use of pump water desertifies immediately the soil, losing groundwater potential.
Brazil, with a majority of Amazon rainforests that cater to a vast number of species, the country has a great landmass but is densely populated that is considered highly urbanized. However, due to the demand of people for its resources, especially in agriculture sector, various environmental issues occurring in Brazil.
Japan has a population growth rate with negative 0.37. I must say that the demand for natural resources is low, but it doesn't mean that they don't have environmental issues. Based on CIA Gov, air pollution from the plant emissions are one of the environmental issues in Japan.
So, from the presentation, it can be drawn that population plays a great role towards resource use and management. Countries with increasing population density tend to have damaged natural resources, while the ones that have regulated population densities tend to have more productive environments. That will be all. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Group 1. So, nakita natin sa presentation ng Group 1 kung ano yung iba't ibang mga shapes ng population pyramid ng bawat bansa. May tatsulok, may ano ba to? Hindi natin maintindihan yung iba. Ano nga ba yung mga meaning nun? Pero nasabi nila at ano ba yung connect nun sa environment? So now let's proceed to the presentation of Group 2.
Majority of the population of Cambodia belongs to the working age population of the country, with the tourism, garment, construction, real estate, agriculture, and mining sectors as the country's main sources of income. Environmental issues such as pollution, illegal logging, habitat loss, and soil erosion became the country's main concern. Since the resources needed for these sectors are in the environment, extraction of such resources are needed in order to support the country's economic growth. Thus, these industries are the ones that contribute to the degradation of the environment and natural resources.
Thailand ranks number 20 of 236 countries in the U.S. Bureau of Census population estimates. With a significant decrease in unemployment rate, Thailand has made progress in social and economic development. However, the economic growth in the last decades has led to environmental issues such as air pollution, water pollution and scarcity, deforestation, soil erosion, illegal logging, and hazardous waste disposal.
Singapore has a good economy compared to the Philippines by focusing on the services and taking advantage of the larger population. But overpopulation can be a double-edged sword. Even though they have good economy as a result of overpopulation, the backlash of it is limited water, limited resource, and an increase in waste and air pollution.
The shift in Burma's age structure has been slow and uneven among its socioeconomic groups. Any economic boost from the growth of the working age population is likely to take longer to develop, to have a smaller impact, and to be distributed unequally. The population pyramid can be associated with inefficient resource use and lack of socioeconomic support from the local and international government.
Brunei has a low population, thus a good general economic status. Noticeably, the composition of their GDP comes mostly from services and industry, but the little comes from agriculture. In that case, we can assume that most of their forests are not converted to agricultural lands, and since they are an energy-rich country, they have focused their development on their industries and services and not on the agricultural and forestry sector.
The relationship between human population, economic development, and natural environment are complex. Poverty and lack of economic opportunity stimulates faster population growth and increasing leads for environmental degradation by encouraging exploitation of marginal resources.
Environment affect our population? Please comment down below your opinions. So now, let's proceed to our last activity response. So, ayan classmates, alam kong ito yung pinakaintay natin. Dito kasi may kita natin kung paano pinortray ng iba't iba nating classmates yung bawat tribe. Ready na ba kayo? Can I get some likes from you? Yan, thank you. Without further ado, let's start to watch the video presentation which are prepared by our fellow classmates. Let's start with the Lower Songkhram River Basin prepared by Mr. Montoya and Miss Baldosano.
Good morning, classmates. Today, we're going to report our chosen community for activity response 8 for the valuing the contribution of women in natural resources conservation. We chose gender and fisheries management in the Lower Songkhram River Basin in the northeast of Thailand. So for the introduction, may I call on Ralph Montoya.
Thailand is one of the biggest exporters of seafood in the world. Although its industry has been mistaken as a male-only occupation, women are also playing a huge role in fisheries. In the Lower Songkhram River Basin, male fishermen has this saying, "Women are important, without them our livelihood would be difficult as well in the fisheries sector." However, these contributions of women are often unrecognized or worse, unpaid. This article shows the gender roles of both women and men in the fisheries in LSRB, how women are equally capable to men working in the fisheries sector.
Thank you. So here we can see on the left side is the picture of women in Songkhram, and the right side is the choreographed photos. So, women in fisheries in the LSRB is not well defined at the community or local level, as fishery is still considered as a main domain, and that women are more engaged in activities such as weaving, food processing, and garment production due to the fact that it involves elaborate work and does not require heavy labor. Women are dressed the same way with how men dresses in the community.
Next, the left photo shows the fishermen in Lower Sangkram River Basin, and the right one is the choreograph. They usually wear the Thai fisherman pants called kangking lep, partnered with Thai traditional hat, which suits the tropical climate of Thailand. Also shown in the picture, the use of monofilament nylon gill nets used for fishing. The men are mainly involved in fishing, working abroad, rice farming, plowing, and land preparation that requires heavy labor. Local community leaders, Tamban Administrative Organization Officers Group, and Fisheries Management in LSRB is dominated or spearheaded by men.
That will be all. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Group 1. So, bago tayo mag-proceed sa Group 2, tanungin muna natin yung mga members ng Group 1 kung ano ba yung feeling ng pagsuot ng national tribe nung nire-represent nila. So, feel free to open your mic and speak out your thoughts.
And I'll speak first for our group. For me, it was very challenging, but at the same time, it was not that challenging. The challenging part was choreographing the background so it will look like the one present in the picture. But finding clothes, women clothing that would fit the one that the woman was wearing in the picture was not that hard, because the women in Lower Songkram wear like the exact same clothing as the ones that the men wear in the fisheries. Yeah. Thank you.
For me, it's also challenging because we don't have any man here in our house, so I need to borrow some clothes from my friends, and it's also good that I have my cousins here at the house who help me prepare the background and all the materials needed for us to choreograph it successfully. And also thank you to my groupmates who helped me a lot. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Group 1. Let's give them a big hands. So now let's proceed to the Group 2, representing the Kalanguya tribe by Miss Balatayo, Mr. Chua.
Good evening, everyone. I am Joshua Chua, and we are going to present to you our AR8. So our chosen tribe is the Ikalahan. We chose this because both gender, men and women, are given equal importance in their community, while other communities observe a patriarchal setup wherein men make the important decisions. The Kalanguya recognizes the importance of the role of women in their community. Hence, mother and females were able to participate in decisions in the family or in the community. So what are their roles? Men and women take up different roles and responsibilities. Nonetheless, they are equally valuable because their knowledge, skills, and practices contribute to the community. Now let's look for some photos in action. Here, this one. As you can see here, although they are both active in the field, man handles the hunting and women handles the crops. Women are also assigned in processing and preservation of fruits, for example in this case, guava. Now let's imagine what it would look like if we change the roles from female to male. See, there's no difference at all. Now, let's look for some more photos. Here, this one. In this photo, the man is harvesting a resin from a tree. Now let's see what it would look like if we change the role from male to female. See, there's no difference at all. And that's our short presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Group 2, from representing the Kalanguya tribe. Can we get some thoughts from our From the group members of Group 2, you can open your mic.
Sa akin, so it was very challenging kasi I had to climb pa sa puno and risky din siya kasi ang hirap po nung tinatapakan. Ayun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Balatayo. So now, let's proceed to the presentation of Group 3, representing the gender roles of Kasi Tribe.
The Kasi tribe of Meghalaya, located in the northeast part of India, follows a matrilineal system where the children take their mother's last name and the wealth and properties of a family will be inherited only by the daughters. They also have a long tradition of natural resources conservation based on customs and religious beliefs which have been passed down from generation to generation. This indigenous knowledge has been reported on their healthcare, fisheries, forest management, pest management, and others. The women in the community consider the domestic sphere as their domain. Like they are more focused on managing their households, in taking care of their children, and in working in the fields. And in relation to the natural resources conservation, most women work as herbal practitioners of folk medicine and in the livelihood industry, like selling honey, nuts, mushroom, and bamboo mats. The women in the tribe have less interest in policy making because they feel overburdened by the responsibilities in their tribe. Their traditional colorful clothing symbolizes their high social status in their community, from their headdresses to the necklaces and to the blouse. The men, on the other hand, are in charge mostly of leading the clan as either the lingdo or the religious head, sordar, the group of village head, durbar, the village council head, and the clan head, or the eldest uncle from the maternal side. In the picture, we can see that the men have a sword and shield, which shows that apart from being the political leaders of the tribe that make the policies, they are also the hunters and gatherers of the resources in their community.
What a great presentation from the Group 3. Can I call on Mr. Mariano to share his thoughts on representing a woman in the Kasi tribe?
Ayun, siguro mga pinaka-challenging na part dito is yung headdresses na nasa taas ko, yung parang plant piece. Hinawakan ko siya throughout the video record. Pero all in all, okay naman.
Congratulations, Group 3. So now, the last but not the least presenters are representing the tribe of Maori. Let's proceed to the presentation of Maori Tribe.
Women in the Maori tribe are independent thinkers who also lead the tribe. They are considered more secret than men due to their reproductive capabilities. However, unlike men, their roles in the community are more focused on caring and tending out activities. Outfits in the Maori tribes have changed through time to address modesty and decorum, especially in women. The Maori women typically wear a kao huru-huru or the feather cloak, the pari, the bodice, which is inside the body, and the tipari, the headband, all of which are made from the resources surrounding them, including birds and plants. Compared to men, Maori women have limited tattoo on their bodies to preserve their beauty.
Maori have a strong spiritual bonds with land and see themselves as guardians. Men are the protector and defenders of their land. Since Maori are dependent on their resources, men are responsible for hunting, fishing, and clearing farming purposes. Maori have a collective identity on how they dress. They also have full-face tattoos that describe their status, rank, and power. The ceremonial planting of kumara plants requires men to be clothed of native plants that are all finely woven garments. Special fully cloaks are worn by men that are categorized as chiefs. They also wear rain capes and leggings. Maori men generally walk barefoot, but sometimes they wear sandals, made from flax, cabbage tree leaves, or mountain grass for crossing rocky grounds.
Thank you for that presentation. Siguro talagang clean air sa New Zealand, no? Mr. Dungan. Yun, so, tanungin naman natin si Miss Perdito about representing the role of men in Maori Tribe. The floor is yours.
Ayun. It's an honor and it's kind of challenging because of the full face tattoo. And syempre, the clothes of men na mahirap hanapin. Pero it turns out good naman. Thank you.
And congratulations to the members of all who inalay nila yung mga efforts nila para makapag-dress ng ganun. Sobrang nakaka-proud kayo, guys. So, kayo ba mga viewers, natuwa ba kayo sa mga reenactment ng klase namin? Kung natuwa kayo, please like, share, and comment on this video about your opinions on the contribution of women in natural resources. Guys, okay, congratulations to everyone na nag-present ngayon. Alam kong hindi biro na gawin lahat ng mga presentations natin. Siguro ilang beses tayo nag-meet through Zooms, through Google Meets, through chats. Pero ito, nag-come up tayo to a wonderful presentations. Bigyan nyo naman ng palakpak yung mga sarili natin. Thank you rin po, ma'am, for guiding us sa bawat activity responses. Thank you din po sa efforts nyo para makapag-come up kami sa ganitong presentation. Inaalay po namin itong video para kay ma'am, para din po sa amin, and para po sa people who are still experiencing the worldwide pandemic. Alam kong mahirap ang situation natin dahil ngayon is online class pa din, pero dapat lumaban lang tayo, guys. Yun lang at maraming salamat. Uulitin ko sa mga viewers namin, sana i-like nyo tong video na to, i-share nyo, i-comment nyo, i-share nyo sa friends nyo. Yung mga opinions nyo, pwede nyo ilagay sa comment sections, and don't forget to use our hashtag SFFG 152 Yulang sa Kalam. Thank you very much and good night, everyone.
I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and ring the notification button. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!